Well, hello, everyone. This is Mario here, and just wanted to say thanks again for tuning in to Leadership Corner. And this is an opportunity to continue the conversation that we've been having about disciple making. And one of the things that I know is that in order to be effective in other people's lives, our relationship with Jesus needs to continue to grow more and more. And that's why I have Dick with us today. If you haven't met Dick Tangen, he is an absolutely amazing guy. One of the guys that I look up to as a person of prayer. To be honest, anytime that I forget that there is this spiritual realm around me, that's about the time I know I need to have a conversation with Dick, because he reminds me that there's so much more going on than what we see. And as we step into this realm of deepening our relationship with God, I had a conversation a while back with Dick on the issue of fasting. And I wanted to kind of have that conversation more today, unpack that a little bit more. So with that in mind, just want to say thanks, Dick, for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So, as I said, I know you are a man of prayer, a man of many things, but definitely a man of prayer. And in this realm of fasting, that's a piece that, quite honestly, for many of us who are following Christ, that's usually sort of an add-on or a piece that's honestly not a part quite often. And so I know fasting is a huge part of your prayer life, and I'm just curious, why is fasting so important to you?
Fasting is important for me because it helps me focus on God. I've discovered that what God has to say is more important than what I have to say. And that so much of prayer is petitioning and God and asking for healing or provision or protection, all of which is legitimate. God tells us to, Philippians 4 tells us to make our requests known to God and with thanksgiving and petition. And the peace of God will keep our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. But we want to, so much of life and prayer requests that I've both made and heard are to, God, get me out of this problem. Get me out of Lord, I want out.
Yes, indeed.
And I felt many times that, me too. I'd like out of this. I don't want to stay in this situation. It's too painful. It's too troublesome. It's too exhausting. Whatever the problem might be, and we want to get out of it. And I don't see a lot of situations in the Bible where God delivers us out of things. Most of the time, it's he accompanies us through things. And even if it seems like we're not getting out of it, and we don't get out of it, like the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, or Daniel in the lion's den, they didn't get out of it, but God was there in it, and they made it through because of his power and his goodness. And so God has a process that he wants to do in our lives, which has a greater value to him than just a quick fix. We want to be healed right now, and that's natural, of course. We want to be healed. We want whatever is bothering us to go away. Yeah. But there may be a higher purpose that God has through that we don't understand. And so for me, fasting comes along with, really in my life, was out of desperation. I started to learn to fast because I wanted to hear from God. Now, I told you in our last, when we met before, that when I was in my late 20s, which is like more than a decade ago, I was in a pickle. And I wanted a quick fix. I wanted God to move. And so I made a vow to go on a 40-day fast. And so I did. I had a quart of chocolate milk every day. I had to have something to look forward to every day. Couldn't just do water. I wanted, some sort of nutrients and something to look forward to. So I had a quart of chocolate milk at lunch. And besides that, it was water. Well, when I got 6 days into this fast, or even 3 days into this fast, I thought, oh man, what did I do? But I thought that if I stopped, God would just make me start over again because I made this vow. I didn't realize that it's possible to repent of sin, which a vow is. Jesus tells us not to make vows. And James says, above all, don't make vows because you put a law on yourself. So the 40-day fast that I was on was a vow that I was trying to get God to act. I thought, I need him to act. I need him to fix this problem. And the best way to corner God is and manipulate him and force his hand is to do a 40-day fast, because Jesus had a 40-day fast, and Moses had a 40-day fast. Elijah was a 40-day fast. And I thought, well, if those heroes fasted, maybe I should do that too, and I could force God's hand. Well, so anyway, I did it. But and then in the midway through, I was really saying, God, you're not fixing things, and I was pointing out to God all the wonderful things I was doing for him and how he owed it to me to fix this problem. And I was pointing out all the things that I was doing for him, and I'm trying to put a guilt trip on God. And and then I had a kind of a wrestling with God one night, and kind of like Jacob, and he pointed out to me that even in spite of all the things I've, quote, done for him, he died for me. And that's more important than anything I've ever done for him. In fact, anything I've done for him that has any value is actually done through him and with him. You don't do things for God, you do things with God. He initiates, we participate. So now when I'm fasting, I don't have a scheduled fast, but whenever I'm doing ministry, whenever I'm praying for somebody, whenever I know that whenever there's a battle going on, I just have this urge to fast because I want to hear from God. I want to be in tune with what he's doing. I want to do what he's participating in, what he's doing, not just do my own thing. Because if I do my own thing, I'm going to be off track. So he cares about what we have to say to him, but what he has to say to us is far more important. And we need to submit to him and listen to him. And fasting helps me focus on that, because there's a denial there. Sometimes you just don't feel like eating when life is really tough, and so you're fasting kind of naturally. But other times you really want to eat, and you're saying, God, I'm focusing on you, and this is more important than that. And I need to hear from you. I want to hear from you. I want to obey you. I want to be in tune with you and in step with you.
There's some of us that this is a brand new thing. Like when we would talk about fasting, don't even know what it is. So what would you say? What is fasting?
Well, a generic definition would be to deprive yourself of something that you normally indulge in. Now, typically it's food, but it can also be other things in your life that need to be fasted. I think is legitimate. I think there's a lot of things that people have in their lives they could fast permanently from, and it would be good. But and there's all sorts of different fasts. If you get a book, there's different kinds of fasts. I think we have to hear from God what he wants from us. Our health will be an indicator of an issue of what we fast, or if we fast food, but he may want us to fast TV, social media, other things that he wants us to put aside with the intent of hearing from him and focusing on him. The distractions and the areas of addiction, so to speak. We're addicted to food because we need food to survive. We have other addictions in our life that we don't need, but actually we need to put aside because they are sucking life out of us. And there's things that we need to put aside in order to focus on God. And if we go back to those things, maybe with a little more wisdom and a little more discretion. A lot of things are said and done and communicated over social media that I think are destructive. And it would be good to fast a lot of that stuff, and maybe never go back to it. But it's something that you desire, something you like, something you have a dependency on or enjoy, that you're saying, God, I give this, I set this aside. Now it can be, you know, as far as food goes, it's just a total water fast where you're just drinking water, or maybe just juices. In mine, I had the, you know, the chocolate milk fast. It could be a vegetable kind of a fast. It could be whatever God puts on your heart. And it has to be in connection with him, and it has to be in response to him.
What would you say to encourage the person who's felt like, I've given this a go before, but it just hasn't felt like it's amounting to anything?
I would say don't have expectations.
Mm.
I think part of our problem when we're disappointed with God is that we have expectations of him. We expect certain things to take place when we do something. And we expect him to respond in a certain way when we do something. And when we have expectations, we're going to be disappointed because God doesn't operate on our expectations. But I think when we have expectancy, that means a heart and a mind of faith and trust, that even if it doesn't look like anything was accomplished, even if it doesn't look or feel like anything was done that means anything to God or to anybody else, we still offer that as a sacrifice to him and say, God, this is yours to do with however you want. And whether I feel edified or not is not the issue. How do you feel about it? And just have an expectancy that God will receive our offering, and he will be kind to us. He wants to lead us through life and protect us through life and provide for us through life. And having that expectancy and trust, we start to then realize, I think, as we live this life of dependency on God, that everything we do has a spiritual part. And are we honing in on God, and are we have this God consciousness where everything we do is with an awareness that God is with us and God is watching us, not to punish us, but just to be with us and to do things with God as a loving Father? Or is that a separate part of our life? Do we live our life the way we want to and then go to God when we have a problem? Or do we include God in all aspects of our life?
Yeah.
From God?
I think that's something that when you said that really struck a deep chord within me. This idea of expectations versus expectancy. I love that. And I think that that's something that can be a game changer for us in the realm of going towards fasting. Because I think we do get those mixed up quite often, or really just focus in on the expectation. I thought of the idea of like an equation quite often is what it feels like. I do this fast, you're supposed to therefore show up and answer. And that's the way that things are supposed to go. But just having a heart, as you said, just to be open to what God might do, knowing he's a good God. That is so good. Well, if we were to try to get started in this, again, every time I would come to these, I know that there's people who have been fasting for years. And then there's people who that's never something that they've considered. But they're hearing about it for the first time today, and they'd like to move in that direction. Are there things that you would recommend resource-wise to say, hey, here's a way to kind of keep this conversation going?
Um, I would say I would ask people to ask God. You know, people hear from God better than they think they do. A lot of times when people say, ask me, for example, ask me for some advice, most of the time I'll just say, you know, what is Jesus saying to you? And ask Jesus. Let's take a moment and let's focus on Jesus. And I'll even say, ask Jesus what you're supposed to do.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
And usually Jesus tells them exactly what I would have told them, but it carries a lot more weight when Jesus does it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would take it to Jesus and say, Jesus, what do you want me to do?
Mm,
And he will speak to your spirit, and just settle down before him. And this is not like a panic thing. It's not like a striving thing. It's just you're going to settle before the Lord and just say, Lord, how do you want me to approach this?
mm,
And because the basics are pretty simple. It's just a matter of offering God something that you are doing, and in order to or in partaking in or indulging in whatever it is, whether it's food or whatever.
mhm.
You're offering it as a sacrifice to God. And you're saying, God, I just want to get closer to you. I want to know you better. What would you like me to do? My default phrase is ask Jesus. That's
Okay.
what I do.
So that is your resource,
That
Jesus.
is my resource.
That is
And
it.
if you want to, and if you, then there's all sorts of kinds of fast, but to me, it doesn't, I think that's kind of irrelevant. It's what
Yeah,
Jesus tells you to do. I know he didn't tell me to do a 40-day fast.
yeah.
I told him I was going to do a 40-day fast. And he
So
says, well, go for it. We might learn some lessons. And I
good.
did. I learned never to do it again.
That is so good. Well, I appreciate the time. I know that it always feels like there's so much more that can be said. But I appreciate this as a start of the conversation. I know that for many of us in this place who have been just leery or fearful to take that step, it's encouraging words from people that have gone along the way, like you, that help us to be able to take them. So thank you so much for taking time to share. Um, and I just want to say to everybody that's watching, just want to encourage you to take that step and just listen to and hear the stories that Dick said. And I just want to encourage you take that step. And I love this idea that would be people who don't live with expectations of God, but we live with an expectancy of what He can do. That was so good and so challenging. And we just see what God does as we step out in faith in this place of fasting and watch what He does. I believe that God wants to do something in our hearts and in our lives, and not just ours, but the people that are around us as well. So let's live that way to this week and throughout this next year. God bless. And again, Dick, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take care.